Jim Clemente is a former FBI profiler and writer and producer for Criminal Minds. Jim, clearing a scene and then going back days later, what does that indicate? Poor police work or a break in the case or what?
Well, first of all, it's just following leads. They have to go with what they have at the time. And clearly, there has been some serious indication that they didn't get everything from either of those locations. And that's why they're there. But I think that there's a real probability that the question you just asked, the issue is, why would somebody remove the victim from her home if it was a case that they were trying to rob the place, if it was a case that they wanted money, perhaps a kidnapping? Well, then they would have made that direct request for a ransom to the person or the company that she worked for, that her daughter worked for. But they didn't do that. And I think here you have an indication. People who remove a victim from their home typically have a known connection to that victim, a known connection to that home, or both. And so those are the real issues that are raised with this activity.
So we're under the understanding that Savannah Guthrie never received anything from the kidnappers. We're under the understanding that this ransom note was sent out to TMZ and local media. What does that tell you?
Well, TMZ really skews younger, so I don't know. That seems like it could be a hoax, but certainly sending it to CBS rather than NBC, where Samantha worked, it just doesn't make sense. This is a very high risk crime. There has to be some level of sophistication on the part of the people who did this. So to do that, to make a mistake as to who to send it to, it just doesn't sound very sophisticated. And that could mean that this was sort of an impulsive act, that something happened when they were at the house and they didn't expect it. And this is how they responded to it in the end.
Yeah, because
by making some kind of demand.
If you're going to kidnap someone, you probably don't do it to the mother of one of the most famous newscasters in the world. That just brings so much attention. The FBI, the president's now involved. You got the bug on every cable station with the tip line. You'd probably want to do it with an anonymous, wealthy family. What are you feeling about the daughter and the husband? Did you read into the change of statement from the sheriff about they said they dropped her off?
Yeah, well, again, it could be an indication that there isn't any proof that she was actually dropped off. And it raises that question, did they actually drop her off at 9:30 the night before, or did they not do that? Or if they did drop her off, did one or more of them return? And so that's the biggest investigative question right now. Clearly, people have made statements and law enforcement took them at face value because they were family members. But now it appears they're questioning that.
All right. Thank you so much. Excellent analysis. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.